This is going to be a video product review of the wire that I have here. It is 65.6 feet of extension cable cord by JACKYLED, JACKYLED. I am going to leave an affiliate link in the video description for this wire. I'm going to let you know what I think of it, how it works out. I'm going to show you it in use right now as I attempt to splice it into this AC adapter, this power dongle, this cell phone power plug, so that I can make an extension. And that is why I've got this wire. I'm used to using military type wire, which does not melt when you strip it. I don't know how this is going to work. This is really fine wire. The reason I went with 22 gauge, this is definitely not 22 gauge. This is probably 20, I'm guessing this is 26, probably 20, 26, 24, 26, 28. I went with 22 because I wanted to have a much better connection. What I'm going to be doing is I will be cutting this in the middle. I will be putting a piece of heat shrink on this end. If you don't have heat shrink and you want to use tape, if you've got good tape, electrical tape is really messy. It's also going to make the hole much bigger. I don't want to make it too much bigger because I want to be able to drill the smallest hole necessary to get this cable through the wall. So I will heat shrink a little bit over here, a little bit over here. I will slice the wire in the center, and then I will strip the ends of the wire. I'll strip the ends of the wire over here. I will put heat shrink on one side of this. I will solder. I will heat shrink the other side and solder. And then what I could do is show you what the final result is. But I'm going to go step by step so you can see what happens. What I've done is strip back the black wire and the red wire. I'm using thermal tweezers to strip this. This is really fine wire, very difficult to strip. The insulation melts. It melts into the wire because it is cheap insulation. It's not made for heat. It's made for a mechanical robot to do the stripping. So this is what I've got. I wish that I had some flux. I wish I had additional flux instead of the flux that is in the solder. The wire is holding the flux, not easily, but it did hold it. And so we've got solder on both ends. And then the next step will be to put heat shrink on this piece. I might have to separate this a little bit so that I don't melt the heat shrink as I solder. And I will be soldering it. Where's the camera? Where's that camera? All I'll be doing is I'll be tacking this one end to end and then sliding the heat shrink on. I'm definitely not going to be able to show that on the camera, but I will show you what the end result is. What I've done, not the best soldering job, but I don't really have anything to hold this down now. I've put 1/16 inch heat shrink over this. This wire is about 1/16 of an inch with insulation. So it's going to be really tight. Maybe 3/30 seconds would have been better. And I'll slide that up over, and hopefully I did my soldering good enough. Notice I cleaned the hands too. I'll get the heat shrink over both of these wires, and I did the same thing over here. I'm only going to be connecting the red and the black. I think that's all that I need for, I've got a Wise Cam here and I've got a Nui Cam. Again, this should work on the Nest and probably the Argo and anything else that uses the micro D to USB power cord. So let me slide these wires up, and then after that I'm going to be putting on a piece of 1/8 inch heat shrink, sliding it over everything so that it is all held together. That is the wire with the heat shrink shrunk on both cables. We're almost done. There it is. Let me get this in focus. That is the micro wire. This wire in the USB is very, very fine. Spliced to the 22 gauge wire that I showed you at the beginning, the red and black over here. And I'm going to show you what this looks like, the final, at the end of the video. But what I decided to do, yes, I could drill a hole This is probably 1/8, 2/8, maybe 3 1/8, 1, 2, maybe 3/16, maybe 3/16 to get this whole bundle through. But if I just push these two wires through and leave this part outside with the camera, it's black, it's not going to be noticed that much, it's protected, and all I've got to do is probably drill like maybe less than 1/8 of an inch hole to feed these two little wires through. Before I finish everything off, I just wanted to say the 22 gauge wire worked fine. It says 22 gauge, believe me, it feels like it's 24. It doesn't even look like it's 22. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it definitely appears to be much smaller than 22 gauge. After the insulation is removed, the wire looks very small, but it served its purpose. It's stripped fairly well with the thermal tweezers, and I'm glad that I bought it. It gave me more than enough wire at a reasonable price. So that's the review on the wire. Now let's finish off the video by seeing if everything works.